Yo, what is up guys? It is Bumfris, back with episode 59 of our Reddit series. This one's going to be a bit more entitled parents, and I know you're going to love this one. I've spent some time today looking for a new story-based subreddit to mix things up a little bit, so please leave me as many suggestions as you can in the comments below. Before you do anything else, don't forget to smash the like button, then sit back, relax, and get annoyed at some entitled parents. Does anyone want a 100% real entitled parents story? I have a doozy one for you all. I'm a US Navy veteran and my MOS was corpsman. For some background, a corpsman usually serves as medical building / hospital or sick bay support staff, depending on whether or not you're assigned to a base or a ship. A few of us got called up to serve as field medics for Marines. I was one of these and had served in Afghanistan and Iraq attached to various Ricky Recon units. Despite their best efforts to ensure our safety, I'd lost my lower right leg during a training exercise accident in 2010. This happened after my recovery and medical discharge was complete, and I was on a Greyhound on my way back home. So on my way home, leaving from the Greyhound station back home at 12 AM, July 1st, 2010, I'm wearing my combat boots, jean shorts, try being in the south in long pants in the dead of summer, despite the fact that the area around my brand new prosthetic pin was still very sore. My old unit shirt, my dog tags visible, and my Marines Desert BDU hat. I first see the entitled mum when boarding the bus, and she's giving me the stink eye. Greyhound was so nice to help me as I was still using a crutch to help balance. I take a seat in the back of the bus and the staff tells me to stretch out if I want to. There was going to be only the entitled mum's family and one other couple, so there'd be plenty of room. When I see her boarding, I can hear the entitled mum declaring as loudly as she could that her dad would only be a moment, and that he was a veteran that got messed up by Agent Orange in Vietnam and it takes him a little long in the restroom. Earlier, I had talked to the guy in the smoking area. He was a vet and we had compared tattoos and talked about how he, his unwed daughter and 2 brats were going to the same city I was to visit his sister for the 4th. I, wanting to help a fellow vet, decided to speak up and confirm that it was true, which was mistake number 1. When she sees me there, in the 3-seater back row and next to the travel toilet, she storms up and demands that I give the seats up to her and her little foobar kid since her father was a disabled veteran. I point to the rest of the empty bus seats and smile. Ma'am, I'm a newly discharged disabled. That was as far as I got. This lady rudely interrupts me, screaming, "Rubbish, you're just some cripple. The service doesn't let cripples in. Take off all that crap and quit pretending." At this point, I pulled out my DD-214 and pointed to where it said I lost my lower leg in a training accident. As the bus driver approaches us to pull her aside and tell her to get off the bus, I motion for his attention and ask that she just get stuck up the front with her kids because, you know, look out for the old man. This was mistake number 2. After he's boarded, he's told what happened and cusses her out before going back to apologize to me before offering me a sweep from his little flask. Eventually, I fall asleep. As the sun's starting to rise, I wake up to a pain that felt like somebody had hooked the prosthetic pin to a car and was speeding off. I jerk myself awake and there's entitled kid 1 and 2 both pulling on it to try and get it off me. I pop up screaming, "Get these little mayonnaise stains?" Anyone over the age of 13 can guess the real word, the flip, yes, the other word, off my leg. PGF's meds are making it slow to wake up, he told me, but entitled mum was on her feet. She screams at me, "How dare you scream at my perfect little angels?" At this, the bus driver was pulling over while I was trying to get their hands off my leg. "Get your flipping, yeah, that word again, hands off them." I say to her, "Then be a flipping, yeah, again same word, but 4 times in the sentence, parent, and flipping make them get their grubby little mitts off my flipping leg before I flipping throw you all off the bus." The entitled mum says in reply, "You shut the flip up, you lousy, lying cripple. Let them play with it. They're curious. Besides, you're just a lousy fake vet cripple." At this point, she's shut up by PGF, who's removed his belt while coming up the aisle, starting to take the belt to her ass. He literally pulls her over his knee and starts spanking her. He looks at the kids and says, "You little shots will be next if you don't leave his leg alone." They make a beeline to the front of the bus at that point. When the cops get there, he even filled out a witness statement as to what she had pulled and helped me get her arrested. The rest of the trip, the entitled kids behaved, and PGF made it up to me with a lot more drinks the rest of the way. No clue what happened to the mum, but I heard the state of Maryland picked up the charges against her. Well, that's one way to start an episode. Turns out entitled parents are willing to attack disabled vets now as well. I mean, that aside though, the fact that this lady most likely told her kids to go over and mess with this dude's prosthetic leg is messed up as it is. This is such a disgusting thing to do to anyone, let alone a disabled vet who's just come back from deployment. Way to make your dad and your country proud. So I recently picked up a second job at a gas station, working late nights to try and pay off some debt and save for college. It was fine. Nothing too ridiculous, just some obviously high people coming in at 3 AM or people getting kinda pissy that our pumps are prepay only. No crazies. Until last night. It's about 10 PM and I had just started my shift. An older woman, maybe 45-ish, comes in with a guy who's around my age. Turns out it's her son, who's tagging along with his mum to pick up cigarettes. He comes to the counter while his mum wanders around getting snacks. We have a bit of chatter between us when I get the Marlboro Black 100s that he asks for, and he holds out a fistful of coins to pay for it. I'm a little annoyed by this, but the customer service smile stays strong and I hold my hand out to take the coins. He drops them on the counter, deliberately missing my hand and causing the coins to scatter everywhere. He's got this huge crap-eating grin on his face and just says, "Oh sorry, my hand is sweaty." I start picking them up because they're all over the floor behind the counter and he watches me bend over a few times and I know he's staring, but whatever. I'm just gonna get these effing quarters and get his gross ass out of here. I bend over to pick up the last of the coins and he says the grossest effing thing I've ever had said to me. This creepy dude says, "You've got good hips. A healthy breeder like you would definitely be able to birth my kids." I was stunned. The customer service smile disappeared from my face and I stand up straight, leaving coins on the ground, pushing what I'd gathered across the counter at him. I tell him that's absolutely unacceptable and he needs to leave. He keeps that crappy grin on his face while he says, "I can't. My mum is my ride." And I notice her starting to come up to the counter with her chips and that. I tell her that her son is being inappropriate and that they both need to leave. She plops her crap down on the counter and says, "No, I don't. Just ring this up," and she rolls her eyes at me. I refuse, I'm embarrassed and pissed, and I'm alone in the store. I feel a bit scared for my safety with this creepo in the store with me, so I feel totally justified in making them leave. Maybe I acted out of emotion more than reason, but I snatched up the store phone and yell out a threat to call 911. The entitled mum doesn't even blink. She just gives me a look and says, "Did he even touch you? Stop being so dramatic. He isn't doing anything. You're being racist. Call the police. They'll just arrest you for a hate crime." Now, I'm hella white and these two were Hispanic I think, and I'm about ready to resign myself to just checking them out and cutting my losses, but then this effing weirdo opens his effing mouth again. He says, "I'll take these smokes for free just because you've been so rude. If this a-hole leaves with the smokes, I'll get fired." That snaps me out of being nervous and I tell them both that I'm calling the police if they don't hand over the merchandise and leave. They don't and I call the police. I let them know that there's two people who won't leave the store and they say they'll send a car. The entitled mum just stands there smugly and keeps telling me that I'll enjoy life in prison and that racists don't live more than 2 days. I don't engage and keep as far away from them as possible. It takes the cops maybe 10 minutes to arrive and it's just one car, but there's 2 cops and a canine unit. They walk in and the entitled mum grabs her son by the arm and starts talking in Spanish. So I have no idea what's being said, but it probably wasn't great. One officer talks to them while the other talks to me. I tell him what happened and he just nods and writes things down in a notebook. He asks a couple of questions like, are there cameras and are you here alone? Did they make any threats, etc. I tell him that the kid wanted to leave without paying for the cigarettes, about the comments, about the cameras that can see everything, and the other basic details. He's nice, if not aloof about the whole thing, and things are going well enough until I hear the kid yelling in Spanish. I look over and the cop is pulling the cuffs off his belt. Turns out that the son had a fake license that he handed the cop, and I suppose that's enough reason to be arrested. The kid punches the cop in the face and bolts from the gas station, his mum screaming after him in Spanish. Both of the cops rush after him and one of them gets their dog from the car. I later learnt that the dog's name is Sheriff, and all 3 book it after the kid. The entitled mum runs out and drives off, leaving me alone and shaken up. The cops come back with a happy looking dog and a pissed looking kid who has a bite on his arm. They basically tell me to just have the manager call them when he gets the chance and they leave. This just happened, so I haven't got any more info yet, but if anything happens, I'll update. This story honestly just seemed to take us for an absolute ride. We've got kids getting arrested using fake IDs, mums running away, these people basically trying to rob the store. What else could go wrong? It's kind of sad how often entitled parents blur the line of being an entitled parent and being a criminal, but that's none of my business. I've made a post before, but as usual, I'll give a bit of backstory and context. I work in a retail computer store and I'm a part-time technician but also deal with customers with regards to sales, etc. So a while back, we had this entitled mum and entitled kid coming in to buy a new computer for the entitled kid. We discussed some options in their price range and ended up selling entitled kid a mid-range gaming computer. This happened on a weekend as it was the only time I ever worked as I was a part-timer. Fast forward to next week, I come into work to see the entitled kid's rig on the table by the other tech work. It was a very specific rig that I built myself, so I recognized it. My work colleague calls me over, seeing as I was the only avid gamer in the shop, and tells me that this is my baby, seeing as I sold the entitled kid the rig and I would know how to fix some game related issues. Little did I know at the time that he was avoiding the screaming banshee and rather pass the work to me. I didn't mind working on it at all because I could have some fun while working, as I had to test why the game wasn't working on the entitled kid's computer. I had to play the game until it crashed and try and figure out what was wrong. The game in question was Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Online. This happened during the early release of the game, and being a free-to-play game, there were bound to be bugs. The first few times the game crashed on startup, sometimes mid-match, and other times just refused to even start. About an hour into testing the computer, the entitled mum storms in. I don't exactly remember the dialogue as this was a few years ago, but the entitled mum was basically already shouting at me about the useless computer that I sold her. At this point, I'm trying to explain to the entitled mum why the game isn't working, as I still haven't gotten a clue myself yet, as many other people are having the same problems. She wasn't having any of it. She told me to refund her for the computer as we sold her useless trash that the entitled kid can't use anymore. She was red in the face when I told her, first off, our store has a no refund policy, which you can clearly see on the wall behind me, and secondly, there is nothing wrong with this computer we sold you, but rather the game itself is broken. It was after I made it clear that the game wasn't working that she then requested a refund for a free-to-play game. It turns out entitled kid spun some story about how he brought the game, to which I thought he brought in-game currency, only later realizing he actually brought hacks, which is a story for another time in another subreddit. She was livid that we never made it clear that there is a no refund policy and practically stormed out. Eventually, after a whole day of working on it, I got this game to work, not for long though, because 2 to 3 weeks later, a new update got released and the game broke again. Lo and behold, entitled mum screaming at me again for the broken game, which turned out to be entitled kid being banned for hacking. But as I mentioned, a story for another time. I'd been working on this computer for a full day and she was furious when I told her that the hours of labor I'd worked on would only cost her $17, which was very cheap considering. She basically stated that the computer was garbage and that it should have worked on day one. She eventually paid and left the store, never to return again. Just kidding, I wish. On our next stock take, we noticed that 2 game cases are missing from our shelves. We only recently started selling games, but I came up with a system to store the game discs in a holder in the back with the numbers attached to the game case, or sometimes in the game case in case of any attempted theft. I'm not sure if entitled mum and entitled kid decided to try and steal a game from us without us noticing, or if some other kid snatched them not knowing the discs were in the back, but I really do hope it was entitled kid realizing his mistake afterwards that we kept the games in the shop. I wish they would have come back into the store complaining about buying a game without the disc included. That would have made for a good story, but whoever attempted to steal it is now left with an empty case. Huh. Side note, any CD keys or game keys were also removed. Not as satisfying, but this was one of my run-ins with a mild entitled mum and her little gremlin of an entitled kid. Story about the Steam ban soon. Probably unsurprisingly, and I don't imagine you'll be shocked to hear this, but this is something that happens a lot. The amount of times I've come across people that just ignore or don't accept the no refund policy is ridiculous. I mean, personally, I love a store that has a grace period, even if it's only 7 days just in case of a change of mind or a wrong product, something like that. But if a store has a no refund policy, you respect it. Unfortunately, I think I'm expecting too much of an entitled parent. Also, let me know if you want to see that Steam ban story when it comes up, even though it may not necessarily be 100% entitled parents. Alright everyone, that is that for today's episode of Entitled Parents. I just want to start off by saying thank you so much for watching and I hope you enjoyed the video. As I mentioned at the start of the video, I spent quite a bit of time today looking for a different subreddit that we could do. I did come across some pretty funny ones. r/hail corporate, r/facepalm, r/relationships are actually all quite funny, but I really want some feedback from you guys as to what you want to see. I also spent quite a bit of time going through the video suggestions on my Discord server, which is in the link in the description by the way, and also the comments on the videos, so I did get a lot of good feedback, but let me know of those ones that I mentioned if you'd be interested in seeing those as well. But that pretty much is that for today's video. As always, I do want to remind you that I have a Twitter and an Instagram account. They are both at Bumfris if you want to follow them. I will leave those in either the pinned comment or the description below if you would like to just click a link so it's easier. But yeah, that is that for today's episode of Entitled Parents. I just want to say again, thank you so much for watching. I hope you're all having a fantastic day, and I'll see you all tomorrow for another Reddit video. Bye.